Diamond is on the scene live reporting exclusively.
Prosecution, who is on top. They have won every major motion they've put forward, and the defense has won almost nothing.
Oh, no. Matt Drudge, Sunday night, it is the Drudge Report. 1-866-4-DRUDGE, 1-866-4-DRUDGE. All right, Matt Drudge continuing on here on the Drudge Report on Sunday night. We are all the way live. Thanks for tuning us in, staying with us on this glorious Sunday. Hope you're doing fine wherever you are tonight. We are learning details on why exactly Michael Jackson's mother left the courtroom. If we believed in Nancy Grace and all the aggressive women that appear to be out to get Michael Jackson on the cable news shows, the testimony was so graphic and horrifying, the mother had to excuse herself from the courtroom. She didn't want to hear this. Well, the mother has said through a press release she left the courtroom during the molestation trial last week to use the restroom. How about that? She said, accusing me of leaving due to graphic testimony when I simply went to the restroom is not fair and not accurate. You hear that, Nancy Grace? You hear that, Diane Diamond, and all the multitudes who, if I heard it one more time Friday, the mother raced out because the testimony was so graphic from all these witnesses. She said, no, I was just using the bathroom. You know, that's what humans do from time to time. Well, a guy who has not been really working with the PAC, because if you follow the press PAC, you would think Michael Jackson already has ordered the sheets next to his cell with Marilyn Manson out there in the hardcore prison cell, which he will spend, if he's found guilty of this, for probably the rest of his life. A gentleman who has been operating from more of a, let's see what the testimony is in the courtroom, including the cross-examination, which is getting left out of a lot of coverage. What a lot of talk hosts and cable hosts are doing are reading the first AP story, which has the DA and the prosecutor's testimony, questioning of a witness. They are leaving out the cross-examination until later in the day, and the hosts don't bother to actually, get the right through on the AP. So you're not hearing how witness after witness is disintegrating on the stand. There has not been one witness, or at least lately, that has not admitted to perjuring themselves in previous proceedings, either in this case or some other case. Horrifying, because what is the consequence of lying in court or perjuring yourself with police? What's the consequence in Snedden's world there in Santa Barbara? Nothing. Anyone can lie. Anybody who can get... Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Roger Friedman, FoxNews.com. Thanks for joining us tonight.
You're welcome. I'm actually driving, and I'm on my way. I'm almost back in Santa Maria for tomorrow morning's testimony.
Now, who are they going to drag out of the closet tomorrow? Do we know?
Well, tomorrow morning, I think that we're going to have Bob Jones, who was Michael's PR person for about 20 years and has a long history at Motown. But on Friday, you're right, on Friday we had Philip Mark, who had been, he and his wife had worked in Neverland in 1990 to 1991 for about 10 months. And a lot was left out of their testimony that I'm going to have in my column tomorrow on FoxNews.com. Most of it comes from it's very interesting tape recordings that were made in the early 90s by a National Enquirer writer who is since deceased. His name was Jim Midieger, and he went through a lot of different pitches with people like the Lamarcks and a lot of the other witnesses who've come on to testify for the prosecution.
So Snedden's case so far, at least in this going back to the past, has been a trail of tabloid rejects or tabloid sources?
Really based on, his case is largely based on the National Enquirer reporting, and we wouldn't know about this except for these extraordinary tapes. We were lucky they were left to a guy named Paul Baresi, who's an investigator in Hollywood, who came to me, and I don't even think I was the first person he came to, but I was the only one who would listen to him. And he said, let's listen to these tapes. They will tell you about how the National Enquirer dangled hundreds of thousands of dollars in front of everyone to get them to say that Michael Jackson molested a kid or did anything inappropriate. And, you know, in all the time that they tried to do it, the National Enquirer never came up with another kid besides the Jordy Chandler, the kid that we call the $20 million
who is
kid.
not willing to testify, who Sned never brought charges based on that case, which he could have. I don't buy the theory because they settled out of court that he couldn't bring charges. Bogus. That's bogus.
Well, actually, they tried to bring charges. They had a grand jury that met in Los Angeles and Santa Barbara trying to bring charges on the Chandler case with Michael Jackson, and the grand jury concluded that there was no case.
Wow. So, you know...
That was adjudicated to the best it could be.
Will the jury be told that? Will Mesereau in his defense say, listen, they tried to bring this into a legal system, not a National Enquirer system, and they couldn't because there wasn't the evidence required to meet the standard?
I don't know if the jury will be able to hear that, but what they have heard, and what's not reported, and you're right, is that the cross-examination of these witnesses is usually fatal to them. And we've had one witness who just sort of said, all right, I lied about everything. You know, so the cross-examination has been withering in most of the cases.
Well, hold on a second. Freeze it right there. You've got someone in a court of law saying they've lied about everything previously under oath. What is the consequence for somebody who does that out there in Snedden?
No consequence.
None. So you can march into the courthouse now and lie, or say you've lied in previous depositions, say you were scared or whatever excuse they are using, you know, the generic excuse, and there's no consequence?
Well, former employees get up on the stand and they say the things that were said on Thursday and Friday were the most salacious. I mean, Thursday was a very bad day. When Thursday started, that first hour was with this guy, Ralph Chacon, who had worked at the ranch as a security guard. He told the most outrageous story. And it was so graphic, and of course everybody went running outside to tell, you know, to report on it. But there was 10 minutes right before the break, the first break on Thursday, when Tom Mesereau got up and cross-examined this guy and obliterated him. Just obliterated him.
We didn't hear that, Roger. We didn't hear how he was obliterated. They don't tell us that in the first day. Well, exactly. But out here, where Michael Jackson is being literally crucified, the nails have gone into both hands at this point, and the crown is on. This is serious business, the smearing of the reputation. Now, again, we're just sticking to what's actually happening into the courtroom at this point. Yes. So this guy was obliterated how by Mesereau?
When he was asked, he suddenly could not remember when anything happened, where it happened, how it happened. I mean, it was funny, and it wasn't so funny because we knew that the jury, you know, you have only a short time to present your case to the jury and convince them. And we had 10 minutes lead, 9:35 to 9:45 a.m. on Thursday morning. I wrote in my column that was the most crucial 10 minutes maybe in Michael Jackson's entire life, because he had those 10 minutes, Mesereau, to convince the jury that this man was lying, that he had been in bankruptcy, that he had done all this for money, that he had sold his story to tabloids, that he couldn't remember the fact that he had been one of 5 people who'd sued Michael Jackson in 1995 and lost, and owed him now $1.6 million. And when Mesereau said to him, "How?"
So hold on a second here. Hold on a second. Snedden is calling witnesses who owe Michael Jackson money.
Well, 4 witnesses, 5 people unsuccessfully sued Michael Jackson in 1995 for wrongful termination and sexual harassment. They lost their case. The judge threw the case out. He said that they owed Michael Jackson all of his legal fees. They each owe him $1.6 million. It drove 4 of the 5 of them into bankruptcy.
And this is this was the guy who said he saw Michael Jackson performing oral, on one of the kids.
Yes. Yes.
This was the bombshell that shook the earth, and talk radio went crazy. This is it. This is the last straw.
It was incredible. Well, it was shocking to hear him have him actually describe it. But of course, then when Mesereau stood up and said to him, "Well, how much money do you owe Michael Jackson from that case?" and he says, "Well, I don't remember." Mesereau says to him, "You don't remember owing somebody $1.6 million?" He didn't remember anything. He couldn't actually remember anything, and it was pathetic. And so you looked at these people and you said, well, you know, they were all dismissed for various reasons. This is a long time ago. And I watched one of the jurors literally lean forward. He came forward in his seat with a grin looking at this. I thought he was going to start shaking his head and say out loud, why are we here?
Well, what is happening, though, is the reporters, the anchor women like Nancy Grace, are not conveying this. They're doing quite a disservice. They're not reporting what is happening there. We had Lori Engel at KFI, locally in Los Angeles, report the jurors were laughing and snickering. The judge finally had to say, well, there's no investigation in this. People were talking mistrial. They could hope for a mistrial, and then can do it all over again and not call the airline stewardess, not call the sister, not even call Gavin this time if he had to do it. Stay right there. Roger Friedman,
okay.
FoxNews.com. He is in the courtroom. He has had a front or second, third row seat in there. He is looking at this from a different point of view. If you just bear with us, because you are hearing a lot of this, that Michael Jackson is finished, this is devastating, how could all these people be lying? The question is, maybe they are all lying. Why isn't that a possibility? Especially now under this revelation that 5 of these witnesses have owed Michael Jackson money for disgruntled and lawsuits that have gone down the toilet and all the other things. But you see what's going on here. This is it's turned into a very compelling case, and I want to know why SNED is not charging people with perjury up there. What is going on? To have any kind of credibility at all, they have to have that courtroom that if you lie under oath, you are going to be in serious trouble. Oh, that's the Clinton law? All right, don't get me started on that. That's last century. We're dealing with 2005 here. It is Drudge. It is Sunday night.
Post initially turned up, I think, on the Drudge Report.
Drudge Sunday night. It is the Drudge Report. And he's traveling up, I guess, where is it, Route 5 or the 101, somewhere there on the coast. On the 101, going back to the courthouse for another day.
It's the most beautiful part of California, and it's hard to believe this is going on here because it's an extraordinary place.
Well, the world's biggest pop star is about to be sent next to a jail cell of Charlie Manson if, in fact, they find him guilty. Well, can you imagine verdict day on this when you've got an entire media establishment who has convicted Michael Jackson already, and the jury finds him not guilty? They're going to say, well, he's a superstar. They couldn't, you can't convict a superstar and all the rest. I already see Diane Diamond et al. Setting that up. But you are saying, no, it is based on the testimony and the witnesses and what you are seeing there with your own eyes, including a possible...
reasonable doubt. There's certainly reasonable doubt that Michael Jackson could be acquitted here, and what we're faced with is a lot of people who come on the stand and say, look, there are a lot of 12-year-old boys roaming around Neverland. They spend time in Michael Jackson's room, but that's all anybody really knows, that they sleep there. Whether anything else has happened beyond that has been sort of disproved in every cross-examination.
Why isn't Macaulay Culkin willing to come defend Michael Jackson in this case?
There's no upside for Macaulay Culkin here. He's already said it. He said it on Larry King. He said nothing happened. His father gave me an exclusive interview. Thank you, Daphne Barak, who ripped me off subsequently. But his father, Kid Culkin, gave me an exclusive interview last week and said absolutely nothing happened. I was there with Macaulay. I was there with all my kids. And they were fine with Michael Jackson. So I think, we sit in the courtroom and listen to sort of the maligning of Macaulay Culkin, wondering, what his recourse is, because I think the public imagination now is that he definitely was abused by Michael Jackson.
I think if you did a pulse poll, an Insta poll of people listening, especially to some of these local talk shows, they would say 95% Michael Jackson did all this. They would say that.
Well,
because it's based on the coverage. It's based on the coverage. If, in fact, they knew, for instance, you're reporting tomorrow on the FoxNews.com and the Roger Friedman site that you've listened to tapes that are in conflict with what a witness testified under oath on Friday. That the tapes. Well, then this to me, and I don't know if Messerow is exhausted and is not following all the details on this. He better have gotten some rest this weekend. Why isn't this being used as a testimony to debunk the witnesses?
That's a good question, because this the man who has the tapes, this guy Paul Baresi, has offered it. He's offered it to both sides. He said, here, listen to this. You'll hear what these people said 10 years ago. And we're the only ones so far at FoxNews.com who bothered to print what these people said 10 years ago. And now we know for the first time, for example, that this man who testified on Friday about trying to sell his story in 1993, it turns out, unbeknownst to anyone, and he didn't mention this on the stand on Friday, that he tried to sell his story first in 1991 and no one wanted it.
Oh.
He also, listen to this, after he was fired from working at Neverland, tried to come back and infiltrate Neverland for the National Enquirer to infiltrate Elizabeth Taylor's wedding to Larry Fortensky in 1991.
That was that Course of Miracles wedding, right?
Yeah, but what you have is you have like a bunch of people who worked at Neverland. Neverland must have like the worst personnel manual in any business. It's a bunch of thieves who've come and gone, sold stories about Michael. They've been mistreated, granted. I mean, it's not been a great personnel policy at Neverland, but I've never seen a group of employees with so much venom all just coming to work there simply to see if they can break their confidentiality agreement later.
Well, but the pedestrian is left thinking, okay, something is going on there. Too many people are saying all this. We have Michael admitting to sleeping with the kids, even though he's not being charged with that as a crime. Is the sexual molestation that's the crime that should be denoted. So you can understand why there is such momentum against Michael Jackson at this hour, because the coverage has not been as detailed as you've been offering.
I'm tired of hearing the expression, where there's smoke, there's fire. Because if that were the case, there'd be a lot of convictions in this country. And, I'm not sure what Michael Jackson did, but if I were the jury and I'm listening to this, I say there's reasonable doubt.
Also, there is a gap of 10 years when Snedden doesn't have anybody doing anything, and the recent 10 years up to Gavin. And I wonder what happened in those 10 years. Why didn't anybody come forward? Why is it just this sort of cluster of activity around these employees, as you've said, who now owe Michael Jackson money? Where is 10 years in the life of Neverland Ranch where nobody? Where is that?
In fact, the real test of these extraordinary National Enquirer tape recordings that Baresi has, I said to someone at the National Enquirer just the other day, I said, listen, in 12 years, you dangled millions of dollars in front of anyone who would come forward, and no one came forward. They said, we agree finally. And even the tabloids, you notice the National Enquirer has not written a word about this case so far, about this trial. They've stayed away from it completely
because they know these witnesses are damaged goods. That's what they're really doing.
Damaged goods. The witnesses are damaged goods, and they know that there's nothing there. There were no other kids. All
right, we just got a short time left. Roger Friedman, FoxNews.com. You're sitting there in the courtroom. Why isn't the mother testifying? Why isn't Snedden calling Miss Janet Jackson to get nasty on the stand? Why? She's a key witness. Where is she?
Well, that's a good question. Now, presumably she's the last witness.
He'll finish it off with a cherry on top.
She's an unreliable witness, and if she starts to tell a story about being kidnapped, the defense is ready to show receipts from her kidnapping. You and I would like to be kidnapped this nicely.
All right, let's go get kidnapped. Roger Friedman, I got to cut you there. We'll see you in the column tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Drive safely there.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, take care. There he is, an eyewitness in the court who is taking a little bit of a different approach than some of these other, shall we say, women, anchor women who have already convicted Michael Jackson. Judge and jury. It's Drudge on Sunday night.